The rioting needs to fucking stop. And if that means like white redneck fucking militia dudes out there mowing down dipshit protesters that think that they can torch buildings at 10 p.m., then at this point they have my fucking blessing, because
I mean, in truth, I don't know if this can even go on Storyfire, but I just want one day in my life for someone to give me an excuse to shoot them.
So all week I've been going back and forth and going over my arguments in my head in what my real feelings are towards the recent Twitch drama with Destiny and Leafy. Not the drama they have towards each other, just the separate incidents. And as hard as I've tried to kind of plan this video, and for those of you who know me, I don't really plan my videos in terms of I don't script them, I'm just going to try and go through it and we'll see where we end up. But I know what I do want to talk about is that I want to talk about freedom of speech, corporate platforms and capitalists like Destiny and Leafy. I also want to talk about rhetoric which dehumanizes leftists, and this is something that is of course very historic, has gone on through multiple periods of the last 200 years, and just why to me it's so concerning how blatant people are with this real dehumanizing language, and how of course it can lead and has led in the past to completely awful things. But before we get any further, if you want to support my work, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. If you want to check out anything else, in the description is my social medias and my Patreon. So if you guys haven't been caught up on the recent drama, let's start with Destiny because he's way more politics focused. So Destiny has been departnered from Twitch. He's also had, I think, some sort of deal or as a partner program with Discord. I don't use Discord. He's had that terminated as well. I saw a post from him saying that he lost about 150k to 200k in revenue from these actions, which makes me realize, you know, this guy just must make a ton of money, which is pretty crazy. Hassan Piker is another one who obviously makes a lot of money through Twitch streaming. Now what he said was pretty awful and plays into my sort of view about the dehumanization of leftists, so let's take a look at the clip quickly.
The rioting needs to fucking stop. And if that means like white redneck fucking militia dudes out there mowing down dipshit protesters that think that they can torch buildings at 10 p.m., then at this point they have my fucking blessing, because holy shit, this fucking shit needs to stop. It needed to stop a long time ago. Like holy fuck.
So of course, do I really need to point out what is wrong with that clip? And in context, it doesn't look much better. I don't know why everyone was saying he was taken out of context there. And that was obviously in the wake of the Kyle Rittenhouse shooting of these protesters. And as he is a capitalist, it's really not surprising that he values private property over, you know, people making their voices heard. And you know, centrists who think violence isn't the answer to anything, or civil disobedience, or even rioting, who think that's just a step too far, then I think they really need to re-examine history and re-examine, you know, all the significant changes a lot of societies get. You know, things like the Cuban Revolution, things like the Vietnamese Revolution. These movements changed, but they were a reaction to their conditions. They weren't just a bunch of people who felt like causing violence and causing unrest. They were pushed to a point. And you see what's going on in America, you see what's going on with the police. Historically, the police have treated marginalized communities awfully, particularly the African American community, but just generally, the economic situation there wasn't really viable for so many Americans to begin with. Then you have the Trump administration, then you have a global pandemic, which they're basically doing nothing. I think out of all the countries I've seen respond to this pandemic, the US is literally doing nothing. Here's one $1,200 check and you're on your way. So the fury these protesters and rioters have, I think in my mind, is somewhat legitimate. If some small businesses get caught up along the way, that is very unfortunate. But you know, if they're targeting businesses which exploit this community, especially corporations, then I don't have much sympathy for the corporation. Now remember those 2 points. He values private property over the lives of these protesters and these rioters. Now let's switch it to someone who I guess isn't as outwardly political. Leafy, who came back from a long slumber because he got so owned by iDubbbz, he didn't want to show his face anymore.
Dude, there's no way that I can like take this dude out because there's no crossover, right? But if there's any streamers watching this, maybe that Destiny dude, take this guy out. Do us all a favor. You actually have something to gain from this guy. We all know that, you know, his viewers aren't gonna watch my shit. They're gonna hate me no matter what. So yeah, any, you know, someone watching, take him out, please. I'll contract you, bro.
Man.
And you see in that clip, he's talking about Hassan Piker, and he's talking about Destiny, coincidentally, saying that Destiny should take him out, and then he says something like, I'll, contract you, bro, making a joke, I think, that, while he might contract Destiny to take Hassan out, he kind of is insinuating maybe someone should kill him. I don't think that was the main point of what he was saying, like some people were saying online. So maybe a bit controversial. He was banned, but he was also banned off YouTube just recently. But for that specific clip, keep in mind the capitalist angle. Let's listen to him talk about going to a protest recently in the hopes he could kill someone.
But I don't really give a shit, dude. I have a gun, I have a holster, I come from fucking Utah. My family has guns, right? So, yeah, I just showed up with that shit and, underneath my jacket.
That was crazy that night. I really thought something bad was going to happen to you because you were showing videos of helicopters above you and shit, cops everywhere.
Bro, I wasn't on the front lines or whatever, but I did see a police car on fire. That's the most shit I saw.
Oh.
Right? I mean, in truth, I don't know if this can even go on Storyfire, but I just want one day in my life for someone to give me an excuse to shoot them. Is that an extreme opinion? Probably.
Now, although Leafy gives me mass shooter vibes, I can't tell if he's just talking a bunch of shit to seem hard, or he actually did this. Let's assume he actually did this, talking about family owning guns, talking about he doesn't have a concealed carry permit, and that he goes to Black Lives Matter protests in the hope that someone will attack him and he can shoot them. So that's nice, literally like a mini Kyle Rittenhouse right there, the same sort of thing. So, that is Leafy not inciting violence in the first clip, but in the second one clearly showing he has violent tendencies if we're to take him at face value. So how do I know these two are capitalists? Well, Destiny obviously says it multiple times. He makes the whole point that he isn't a leftist, even though he supports some, I guess, leftists or more centre-left policies. Leafy is here, is just a typical, I guess, idiot, but he's wrote stuff like communism is worse than racism, and he's shitting all over leftism, and he's one of those typical anti-SJW people. So yeah, he's not pro-left either, which is pretty clear from the stuff he's saying on these videos. But anyway, let's get into the freedom of speech, First Amendment versus corporation argument. So what happened in the wake of this departnering and the deplatforming for Leafy was, especially in Destiny's case, they were blaming Wowshi or whatever they call him, blaming him and Xanderful and their fans, saying that, it was a harassment campaign and they got him banned. And then Leafy's case, people were saying you shouldn't deplatform him because, it's all about free speech and he should be able to say what he wants whether you like it or not, grow up, snowflake. And you can make that argument, but the problem is these people are also capitalists. So Twitch is a massive capitalist corporation, as is YouTube, right? So if you support capitalism and you support these corporations' right to exist, well, these corporations can make their own rules. You're on their platform. They don't own the internet. And don't capitalists always make arguments like this? If you don't like your job, quit your job. If you don't like where you live, up and leave, buy another house. And remember that wedding cake thing where those bakers wouldn't bake a cake for a gay couple? Well, their argument there is that if someone is discriminating against you, don't give them your business, just go give your business to someone else. And to the fans of these people who are saying it's a free speech issue, I don't really understand how you can call yourself capitalists. And while you support other businesses discriminating against their employees based on things that are totally unjustifiable, like being gay, for example, you can support that, you can support stuff like that. But when Twitch want to de-partner you or de-platform you because they don't think you are good for their business, apparently that is an infringement on your freedom of speech. Of course it's not. Twitch clearly have terms of service, as do YouTube, as do Twitter. You sign up for them and you agree to them. If you break them, of course, they have the legal right to do what they want. It's their platform, they own it. But as capitalists, you should respect that. And in your capitalist logic, why don't you go and start your own, live streaming platform? Why don't you go start your own, YouTube equivalent? Why don't you go do that and compete with them? Because isn't that what you always say to other people moaning? So when we criticise capitalism, the argument often is, you criticise capitalism but exist in capitalism, aren't you a hypocrite? Well, you guys are advocates for capitalism, but you and your fans essentially can't handle it when these companies, based on free market forces for them, where they think we aren't going to have as much success if we keep you on our platform, if we keep you as a partner, so we're going to get rid of you to keep our profits up. You have a problem with that. And to make it clear, I'm more talking about the reaction online rather than Destiny and Leafy coming out and saying, I can't believe they're infringing on my freedom of speech, but that is just a prominent argument I've seen around Twitter and Reddit. But let's move on a bit more to the dehumanisation of leftists. And this is something that has really concerned me since I've been growing on YouTube. You know, the casual death threats I get, people saying they want to kill me, saying they want to chuck me out of a helicopter, obviously referencing the way General Pinochet's regime killed communists. All that stuff to me just weighs really heavily, and just the reaction to Kyle Rittenhouse compared to the Antifa member in Portland who killed a Trump supporter defending himself. Seeing the two reactions to that really concerned me, especially that Trump essentially ordered the police to do a hit on him, and they did. This is something straight out of Putin's Russia, Assad's Syria, Mubarak's Egypt. There's numerous right-wing regimes that do this type of stuff, and America seemingly is no different. But when it's an Antifa member doing the exact same things in what seems like, on the surface, way more justifiable circumstances, everyone cheers as he is murdered. So people like Destiny saying that they want more Kyle Rittenhouses just so rioters stop destroying property. Again, it's dehumanization. Human life is worth less than private property. How insane a concept is that? But that is a concept that a lot of people in the world have been brainwashed to believe in. That is essentially capitalism, where private business, private buildings, everything like that is worth more than human lives. Now the same thing with Leafy. You know, his dream is to shoot someone. What better place to shoot someone than a leftist Black Lives Matter rally, and you're just waiting for someone to start on you so you have an excuse to kill them. But to you, because they're a leftist or a Marxist or a communist or whatever, they aren't a real person. They don't have the same right to life as everybody else. And of course, this plays into historic anti-communism. Something people forget is that the discrimination against the Jews in the 1930s specifically, I'm not talking about historically, in the 1930s specifically, was tied to anti-communism because, of course, Karl Marx was ethnically Jewish, but because a lot of the Bolsheviks were Jewish, because of the Tsarist regime over the years isolating the Jews, pushing them to be more anti-government, and they were more secular in general, there was a conspiracy theory spread across Europe that the communists were working for the Jewish conspiracy to take over the world. So cultural Bolshevism, Judeo-Bolshevism, all this stuff became prominent phrases and theories in Nazi Germany, and they used this logic and these theories to crush leftists, dehumanize leftists, put them in the camps alongside the Jews, and often there wasn't much of a distinction made because they thought you are either a Jew if you're a communist, or you are working for the Jewish conspiracy to undermine Western or German society. And of course, need I say how brutal the Nazis were to the Soviet Union? You had the racial element with them being Slavs, also the ideological element of them being seen as this dirty race of people working for the Jews, essentially. So loads of Soviets faced brutal prison conditions, executed on the spot. Same with Soviet civilians. And something that is always forgotten is that anti-leftism and the dehumanization of communists went hand in hand with the dehumanization of races that the Nazis deemed subhuman. So, Romani people, you had the Slavs, like I mentioned, you had the Jews, you had the disabled, you had gay people, you had black people. It went hand in hand with the dehumanization and killing of leftist people, which many of these people were often members of. And it actually weighs on me quite heavily and affects my mental health to see this rhetoric, because it makes me realize that if I was assassinated for my political beliefs, if I was killed as part of a protest, more people would be celebrating it than would be upset that the state or people like Carl Rittenhouse had killed me. And how depressing is that? Me, a human being who believes in an ideology that maybe you don't agree with, but is centered around the belief that, you know, human life is precious, it's something you should protect, and you should advocate for an equal society for everyone. In people's mind, they've been so brainwashed, they're so tribal. The killing of someone like me is seen as a good thing. It's something that, you know, sending me death threats is funny, saying you're going to chuck me out of a helicopter, referencing, you know, genocide of communists. That's a funny thing and that's good, and people like Leafy can say this in public. You can feel fine about saying this. Even people like Destiny, who claim to be good in a lot of ways, can say this type of crap, because dehumanisation of leftists is a thing that has been happening for centuries, and it is very, very depressive to see how more prominent it has got lately. But in the US, it is absolutely insane. You know, you have literally the government trying to make leftist activists painted as domestic terrorists, and the people who kill them, who are domestic terrorists, are upheld as heroes, where the president and the president's son will defend them murdering leftists. So anyway, let me know what you think of the Twitch drama. If you like this content, please subscribe to our channel, maybe like the video as well. If you want to find me on social media, at the Kavernacle on Twitter and Instagram. Check out my Reddit page, so my subreddit, r/the personal Reddit, u/TommyCahill1995. Check out my Patreon, WordPress and Medium, also in the description. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.